Ooh. Let's turn that down. Wow. Sensitivity was wild. Get the other headphone in here. I think we're live. Of course. Is this settings? Oh, cool. Is there a way? No. Okay. Yep, settings are perfect. I was gonna minimize it, but I wanted to do it with a window because I don't have a hotkey to set an image to block my desktop. But I guess it doesn't really matter that much. Let's head over to the Discord. I am now live. Probably should link that shit though. Right? Yeah. So don't steal my stuff, okay? Don't steal my computer from me. Channel. There we go. Now let's link it. Yep, it's clear that this is the first stream. Can I hear myself? Yes, I can. Excellent. Excellent, excellent. So now we're going to minimize that, and then we're going to pull this back up. Yeah. Okay. So I'll have to cut all that out for the YouTube video. But this is Wanderjahre Games. My name is Dylan Davis, or Cathartigan, whatever you want to call me. I am a writer, a fiction writer, having gotten my master's degree in fiction writing last year. No, this year? This year. This year. In 2021. The years are blending. From Southern Illinois University. And while there, you maybe some of you know, if any of the regular people are coming today, or watch the YouTube, which all of these will eventually go onto YouTube, a couple days after the stream. While I was there, I helped found something called Neophyte Studios, and Neophyte Studios has since gone on without me, and they're doing their own thing, and then I decided to move on and do my own thing. And so this is kind of just my version of what Neophyte was doing, partially because I moved to Germany. I am natively from Utah, but then while I was in my master's program, I met my wife, and then we moved to Germany after we graduated because she is German. And so as a writer, I'm a writer first, and I've been studying writing since forever. Since I was a kid, I was writing little short stories. I think my very first short story was called Loosey Goosey. That was the Discord bot. Loosey Goosey. And Loosey Goosey was basically just like this goose who was on the loose, and he was terrorizing a small town that was very similar to my small town where I grew up. And so from there, it was just writing ever since I was a kid. I finished my first novel when I was in high school. It wasn't good. It was terrible. It was really bad, actually. I thought it was going to be really cool, but it was really not. I was trying to be super edgy, but little did I know that being super edgy is not cool. But I thought it was cool. And it was a novel. Let's see, what was it? It was about a journalist. I can't believe I'm already going into this on the first stream. It was about a journalist whose name was Chet Strickland. And Chet was addicted. Chet was addicted to drugs, but not just any drugs. Chet was addicted to... Hey, what's up, Sasquatch? It's just Sasquatch. He is my resident IT guy. He's helped me set up Discord and also helped me set up the stream and helped me set up many other technological things. Even though I'm not adept. Yeah, I'm okay with tech, but I'm not quite good with some stuff. But anyway, so back to the Chet Strickland thing. So Chet Strickland, he was addicted to drugs, but he was it was very specific. He was addicted to mescaline, which you can't really be addicted to mescaline. So I mean, I guess you could, but it's not like it's not the traditional addictive drug. Also, I had never done mescaline when I wrote the novel. I hadn't done any drugs. I'm pretty sure. I think maybe I had smoked marijuana one time. So I had no idea what I was talking about, and I just thought it would be badass if there was a journalist who was addicted to drugs. And then, if I remember correctly, he gets fired from his job, and I can't remember why. Well, it's largely due to the fact that he's addicted to mescaline. He's addicted to mescaline, so he gets fired from his job. And then he sees a because he hates his job. Oh God, he hates his job because he feels like he's just doing fluff pieces. And what's really funny is that I didn't understand when I wrote the book, right? I didn't understand that what I saw on the news was local, right? I didn't understand that the local news, like the news that I was watching on television, was just for Utah. So like Chet Strickland he's mad at himself because he wanted to be a real journalist. He wanted to be like a gonzo journalist. That's why he's addicted to mescaline, because I read Fear and Loathing that one time. And because he's addicted to... Wait, where am I going with this? Hang on. Let me think. Oh, right, local news. So he refers to himself as doing these dumb fluff pieces, like the many ice cream stores are popping up all over town, but this one in particular is quite different. This one in particular, it makes ice cream with puppy chefs, and then it shows the puppy chefs. That's like the stuff that he hates that he's doing. And I was like Big Buddha. And Big Buddha is a local Utah, in the field reporter. That's who he is, and he still works. But yeah. So I was referring to some obscure fucking guy in Utah. And I can't remember exactly how I got on this topic. Oh yeah, because I'm a writer. So that book sucked. That's ultimately what I'm trying to say is that book was trash. It was garbage. But it was written by a 17-year-old. And then so then he goes down to Mexico and he gets killed. But he saves somebody in the process, so it's kind of like a redemption thing. I don't know. I think ultimately I kind of ended up intuiting that story better than adult version of Dylan. Better than adult version of Dylan was trying to write stories. And that's partially what this channel will ultimately be about, is how there's a difference between intuiting fiction and trying to smartly design fiction, right? Trying to smartly design fiction gets you into a whole heap of trouble. Holy fuck, Big Buddha, said Sasquatch. It's been 84 years. Yes, it has. Yep. And he's still there. He's still working. I actually met him. I interviewed him as part, because Jake, remember when Sasquatch, do you remember when you and I were on the same newspaper thing? Like in high school, we worked for the newspaper. Yeah, I was also the editor-in-chief of my newspaper. It doesn't matter. But so I interviewed him for the high school newspaper, and it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. But I was like, so what's it like to be, in the field reporter? And meanwhile, I was actually writing Chet Strickland, the book. And he was like, whatever, dude. Like, it's 5 in the morning. I don't care. It's good. Is that what you want? Just see all those questions you have on that sheet. Just fill in shit. just fill in shit. I'm here for 10 minutes and then I'm out of here. Right? I gotta go get breakfast. I gotta go get coffee. I'm like, okay. Yeah. So I think that's ultimately why I made fun of Big Buddha in the book, because I thought that he was being a dick to me. But now that I'm an adult, I was like, that kid's an asshole. We played Pokemon for weeks and then hated our lives for 2 days a month because of the layout of the newspaper was ass. Indeed it was. It sucked. But yeah, so then moving on, I go into my undergraduate degree and I studied creative writing there. And I wasn't very good there either. That was when I had started to try and think my way through stories rather than I'd lost the ability to intuit narrative fiction. because I think as you get older, you tend to lose your sense of imagination. And people tend to think that imagination is unstructured, and that's just not, it's not true. People think in narrative, and we'll talk about that more and more as the stream and the show goes on. But you lose as you get older and as life becomes more like whatever, you kind of lose the ability to intuit your own imagination and your own narratives, because kids tell stories in perfect narrative structure, better than many graduate students do, while intentionally trying to lay it out and write it. So yeah, I wasn't very good in my undergraduate degree either, but I was getting there. I was just trying to intuit narrative fiction, and then got into my master's program, which ultimately led to all this, which is what I talked about just a minute ago. So that's essentially my history with writing. It's just fiction, 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 every year, all year, never stopped. You can go check out some of the streams over on Neophyte if you want to see more of that work and more of the talking about that. Like I defended my master's thesis on the Neophyte channel, for example. So if you want to see me defend my master's thesis, which was a novel, you can go to the Neophyte Studios Discord. Let's see. There's some stuff going on in the Discord, and I don't want to alt-tab again, so I'm going to check it on my phone while I keep talking. So that's me and my history with writing. Now my history with gaming, just to give you a quick overview of that. Oh, okay, it's nothing on the Discord. It was messages instead. Probably should mute Discord. So me with gaming, the introduction of me with gaming is basically the same timeline. I wouldn't be surprised if the moment that I finished the first paragraph of Loosey Goosey, I put it down and then I picked up my controller and played Conflict Desert Storm, or probably something even older. I think the first game I ever played was Mario, like Mario, and then probably Street Fighter 2, which I used to sneak into the basement of my grandparents' house because my uncle lived down there, but I think he had moved out or something, but he left his Nintendo, and I swear to God, the only game he had was Street Fighter 2, so I would sneak down there all the goddamn time, and I'd play Street Fighter 2. I would never be able to do anything because I was dumb, but I was like, this is just amazing. I'm pressing buttons and things move on a screen. And Donkey Kong and all those games. It was mostly Nintendo stuff. My dad was like highly, highly against video games when I was a kid. Like actively said, they rot your brain. You will never play them. And then they got divorced, and I was like, get me a Nintendo 64 right now. And so then we got a Nintendo 64. And so, yeah, then that just, Star Wars pod racing. But then I think Call of Duty, the very first Call of Duty game, I think that was the first game, either that game or Conflict Desert Storm, because I was a big military buff when I was a kid, which is funny because I never really wrote about it. I mean, I kind of did, but not really. The Conflict Desert Storm or the original Call of Duty were probably the first two games that really, really, really made me think of video games as a storytelling medium, because I remember thinking like, oh my God, I was watching Saving Private Ryan, and then I would go play Call of Duty, and I was like, oh my God, I'm in Saving Private Ryan. Like I am Private Ryan, saving him too. So it was just like, it was the best. Like for me, that was the end all. It just was something that was so magically beyond. It was like film. Like because I thought, I loved movies and stuff, but like to me, looking at a film, it was like, no idea. I'll never be able to make one of those. Nah, not even gonna try. Way beyond my capabilities. They make those with magic on a different planet, and they're beamed down from aliens, and that's how we got Marvel. Like I had no idea how movies were made. Same thing with games. I just was like, that's completely out of the realm of possibility. I will never do it. I will never be a part of it. So I'm just going to stick to writing. Now, before I actually move on, I'm going to read this message. Imagination is a structure. I can literally, in my head, tell what my players in D&D are going to do, like weeks in advance. You were right. It's not Unchained. Yeah. It's yeah, exactly. It's a constraint. It's imagination is a predictive pattern. You know what I mean? Like if you're looking at a cloud and you're picturing it where you think it's going to move. You're just imagining. You're just imagining, which is predicting the future of something based on the information that you're given, right? And so, but the problem is when the problem arises with writing fiction, where you start to think like, oh, there's all these structures that I need to follow. There's all these things that I need to do in order to make good fiction. Like I have to have a hero, and there needs to be a refusal of the call to the journey. And like, but what about this story that doesn't have that? And what if mine doesn't? Does that mean it fails? And no, that's not what it means. What it means is that like, if you were to just tell me a story, like face to face, as person to person, like if we were at a coffee shop and you're like, oh my God, the craziest thing happened to me. So my friend, they wanted to go to a concert, but I didn't want to go, right? But then, of course, I had to go because he told me that the girl that I wanted to date was going to be there, and I was like, okay, fine. And so that we got in the car and we left, right? But he was drunk and he got pulled over, and I already have a ticket, so I got out of the car and I ran across the field, and then I eventually, by running through the forest, I made it to the concert, and she was there, but she was kissing another guy, right? That is a perfect narrative structure, and I just made it up instantaneously, right? Just by following the lead of my own imagination going, right? Did I sit down and go, okay, here's how I'm going to tell this, here's how I'm going to explain this? No. It's just, there's a character, there's a thing that they need to go do, they don't necessarily want to go do it immediately, and then they go. And that's it. That's kind of the intuition, the imagination that I'm talking about with narrative. So, best example, I can tell a story like a motherfucker, but only out loud. Writing it down makes my brain implode. Yeah, I know. That's the weirdest thing about it. That's the weirdest thing about writing, in my opinion, because I do it too. When I sit down to write, it's like, anyway, the backstory of this guy, his mom, she really, really liked Price is Right. Like, it's just totally inane, nonsensical shit. It's like, and you don't need to do any of it. So back to games. So with games, after playing through Call of Duty and Conflict, I wanted to tell a memory real quick about Conflict Desert Storm. Adorable and also heartbreaking simultaneously. So Conflict Desert Storm is like a single or multiplayer tactical, not necessarily tactical shooter. It's not it's not quite as tactical as like Rainbow Six or like the old Rainbow Six games. I mean, I guess Siege is also tactical, but like the old Rainbow Six games where you didn't even see your gun, it was just a crosshair and fucking one-shot death, and you're like, yeah, it's crazy. But it was in that vein, but it was third person. It was much more lenient with its health. Like you get shot like 1,000 times. You get hit by a tank. And my brother and I played that game like literally religiously because we weren't raised religious. I'm not Mormon, for example, even though I'm from Utah. It turns out there's like there's non-Mormons in Utah, which was pretty rare when I was a kid, actually. But anyway, so Nick and I, or my brother and I, we played that game totally religiously, like just all the time, anytime we could, because it was the most important thing in our lives was like military stuff, and it was like one of the only games that we could play together because he didn't give a shit about sports games and I didn't give a shit about some type of game he liked. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but he hated sports games. So we played Conflict all the time. And I remember that game was so fucking hard to a child because we're stupid that we just couldn't get past like the 4th level or something. I think there's like 9 levels. So we couldn't get past the 4th level. It's this level where like you have a squad of 4 people. If you play with 2 players, you can play up to 4. But if you play with 2 players, one person takes two characters and the other person takes the other 2 characters, right? So I remember watching you play it well after it was considered old. Yeah, it's a sick game. I would play it now. I loved that game. I mean, I know it's on GOG, but I don't think I want to play with my brother. It's on GOG, but I don't think the online works because I think I tried that. Maybe there's a patch or something. I don't know. I'll have to ask Mandalore Gaming. So anyway, So we played this game religiously, and we each controlled two characters. And the fourth level of the game was you had to go in this kind of like it's set during Desert Storm era warfare. So it's like you're fighting like the Iraqi Republican Guard, right? Like the Iraqi military in the early 90s. So which is kind of cool. I mean, for a history buff, it's cool because I don't think that really exists now. There's no games coming out there like, oh my god, relive the world of Kuwait. You know, it's no. So you have to go into this area and you have to destroy these like scud launchers. I swear I'm not like a huge history guy. I just know these things because I played it so much as a kid, or a huge military guy. But you have to go into this thing. You have to destroy all these scud launchers, and toward the end of the level, Nick and I had tried to beat this level. I have no idea, 100 times, probably more. And there was one time when we finally did it, and because I was the older brother, I always played as Bradley. That was his last name. His name was like Captain Bradley. I can't remember. I just remember it. Bradley, Foley, Connors, and Jones. Those are the four characters. I'll never forget them. And when I'm dying at 89 or 140, hopefully, I will still remember Bradley, Foley, Connors, and Jones, and Ayers, who you'll find out about in a moment. So my brother and I were desperately, we've destroyed all the scud launchers. Finally, for the first time ever, we didn't run out of tank rockets for the first time ever, because there's tanks all over the place, and they kill you in like, one shot because there's like multiple of them, and they're soldiers, and it's horrible. So I'm having flashbacks. So we finally destroy all the scuds. All we need to do is get to the thing, the area, and then leave, right? That's all we got to do. Next level, we're done. So as we're running, we don't see one tank. We can see the extraction zone. We can see it. It's right there. And so we're sprinting, and then boom, huge explosion, right? And you had like these four portraits, one for each character. And Jones's portrait, he's the demolitionist. That's what he does. He did such a great job. He especially in that level, because he could place down these like anti-tank mines, and he had more explosives and shit. But boom, Jones goes down, and his portrait turns gray, and Nick and I we're running, and Nick's like, we have to go back. Because Nick loved Jones. You have to understand this. Nick loved Jones. Jones was awesome to Nick. He played the sniper guy, and he played as Jones, and he loved those two guys. And I was like, I'm sorry, we can't. We are so close. This is the best chance we will ever have to get out of this level. Never again. And he'll come back, I'm sure. If we just make it to the end, Jones will come back. And Nick's like, he won't. We have to go back. We have to get him. And I was like, we are not doing it. We are not doing this. I'm like 12. We're not doing it, Nick. We're not. We've got to get to this landing zone. And Nick was like, fine. So we leave Jones behind. Jones is dead. And we make it to the extraction zone. We get out. Peace. Level over. Finally, after like seriously a year. We boot up the next level, and it's Bradley, Foley, Connors, Ayers. Ayers. No Jones. Ayers is a white guy. Jones was a black guy. Ayers was a white guy. And so Jones was fucking dead. Jones was like actually really dead, and the game was saved, and there was no way to go back. So if we were to do that, we would have to start the game over. And I'll never forget my brother's face. Like I'll never forget it. I mean, he broke into tears, fell into his own lap crying. I mean, he was already crying when Jones had died, which is pretty powerful already. Like, we could probably just talk about that. But, like, when he realized that Jones was not coming back, I mean, he was inconsolable. It was completely over for him. I've never seen somebody so sad about something like that's... Well, actually, no, full stop. Like, I think I've never seen somebody so sad for a collection of pixels on a screen. Or polygons, I guess. Or whatever. I don't fucking know. Polygons, whatever. Yeah, permadead. Permadead. No one around. Or no chance of revival. And then I think Nick and I years later went back because we stopped playing it after that. I think for a while, like Nick was like, it doesn't feel right. Like without Jones, it just doesn't feel right. I can't do it. And I was like, well, I'm not gonna fucking go back and play the first 3 levels again. But I think we ended up going back and playing it, and we never beat it. We still haven't. Nick and I still talk about it to this day. It's like we've never beaten that game ever, and it's a haunting thought considering I seriously hundreds of hours we played that game, playing the first 3 levels over and over and over again, because we could beat them, but we just didn't know how to beat the 4th one. And then I think, but like I said, years later, I think we went back and we got to like level 6 or something, level 6 or maybe 7, and then we just never finished it for whatever reason. But yeah, so that's like the early history of me really genuinely thinking of games as like legit fiction vehicles, legit fiction medium. I know there's a way to play it online. I'll talk to Matt. Good. I would appreciate it because I own a copy. I bought it to test the online and it just said no. Like I clicked like play online and it was like absolutely not. Where's your Xbox Live Gold membership? I was like, I don't know. That console doesn't exist anymore. It didn't actually say that. I don't know. And so with my love of games like fully solidified, I never stopped playing them either. Like my life has basically revolved around writing, going to school, and video games. And then there's like a brief stint there for like a lot of drinking, which has since, cooled. And now it's just back to writing and games again. So it's like I've gone full circle of like, what do I really want to do? And the reason why this is called Wanderjahre, Wanderjahre means wandering years, right? In German. It's the period that you do when you go from a journeyman to a master in various building fields, right? So if you're a carpenter, when you're reaching the end of your schooling, you go on what's called the Wanderjahre, where you travel around and you basically build shit for people, like roofing and, whatever, build their cabinets. I don't exactly know the ins and outs of it. But you build shit for people. I know that. And it's supposed to be 3 years and like 1 day or something like that. And it's a really old tradition dating back, I don't know, 65,000 years in Germany. I have no idea how long, but it dates back a really long time. Before I was born, before 1992. And I don't know, it just kind of fit. So like Neophyte, when I was with Neophyte, it's called newcomer, right? Or Neophyte means newcomer, right? It means a new person. And Neophyte fit, I think, for what we were doing over there because we were newcomers to this field of games as lit, right? And I'll talk about that a little bit too. We may not end up playing a game today, to be honest. So how long have I been streaming for? 28 minutes? Yeah, okay. I'll be going for about an hour. And what was I going to say? Oh, so yeah, Neophyte, we founded that with like our professor, Pinckney Benedict. He's a great writer. You should go read him. And what he's doing over at SIU is pretty important in my opinion, which is that he's retooling the MFA program, which is traditionally for short fiction only, right? So an MFA is Master of Fine Arts and Creative Writing. And what you do, it's a highly competitive program. And when you get into the program, you write for 3 years and then you come out with a novel on the other end of it, right? So what Pinckney's trying to do is he's trying to change the program so that it's producing more games writers, right? Writers who think about games as a legitimate, kind of like TV writing, you know what I mean? Where like you can study TV writing and you can go to LA and you can try to write television. You can try to get in a writer's room. You could try to write your own pilot, that kind of thing. So he's trying to do the same thing, but over in video games, because video games need an absolutely ass load of writing. Like they just need tons of it, tons and tons and tons of writing. I mean, obviously not every single game in the world, but a lot of video games do. A lot of tons and tons of games need tons and tons of writing. And getting fiction writers trained for that is probably a good thing, right? So that's ultimately what I was studying in my MFA while I was writing the novel. Because now that I know that it's actually like a possible thing, like it's a real thing, that's super important to me. Like there's not a more dreamified job for me. There's no bigger dream job for me than writing a game. Because games by far are my most consumed medium. Like I probably play books to games ratio 100 to 1, or games to books 100 to 1. So for every 100 games I play, I read one book. And I do it for narratives too. Like it's not just like I really like fighting games, even though I do. I really like fighting games. But I really love them for their stories. I really love them for the ludic narrative, right? And I hope that's okay with you guys, that you're going to be hearing ludic narrative a lot, or ludological narrative, or I probably won't say it very often, ludological dissonance. Or was it ludonarrative dissonance? I'm pretty sure it's ludological dissonance. It's that dumb. I'm not a big fan of that phrase. I understand that games are a different medium and they need to do different things. But I will be saying ludo a lot, and ludic. Those are pretty important words for what I'm going to be talking about quite a bit on this channel. What was I going to say, though? There was another thing I was going to say. Oh, yeah. So Neophyte, being newcomer, after I left Neophyte, I went to Germany, and I wanted to make a new channel. And for me, like, it's weird that I'm now considered a master of creative writing, because I am 100 billion% not a master of creative writing. I'm not even a third of the way there, I don't think. Yeah, it's just nonsensical. Like, it's weird that we even, because also all the other people that I met in various programs, like the masters of, I don't know, mathematics, masters of linguistics, masters of, education, none of them were masters by the end. Most of them hadn't even changed from their first year. So no, being a master's student does not mean you're a master. In effect, you are coming to the end of your journeyman, even though that's what the bachelor's degree is supposed to be. But I don't know. I think the education system's a little bit wonky in that regard, that it doesn't... I don't know what's wrong with it, honestly. I'm not going to even talk about it because I don't know what's wrong with it. But the journeyman is supposed to be the bachelor's degree. The master's degree is supposed to be the transition from the bachelor's to becoming a master, and then you can take on your own apprentices and send them off for their journeymans. And yeah. Right. That's the traditional academic structure. However, I'm not a master. What I'm considering these 3 years, if we're going off of the German thing, is these are the Wanderjahre, right? These are the wandering years where I've moved to a new country where I do not speak the language. I mean, I kind of do. Nur ein bisschen Deutsch. Ich spreche nur ein bisschen Deutsch. Excuse me. Entschuldigung. Ultimately, what I want to do more than anything is I want to write games. Now, I have somewhat of a leg up. I think, I could be wrong, but I have somewhat of a leg up in Europe because they need... There's plenty of game companies here. There's tons of them. And the great thing about being from America is that I know English. And the great thing about knowing English is every game company needs English people because it's the second biggest market after China, right? So if I knew Chinese, holy fuck, I would get so many jobs. But I got to learn German first before I can start learning Chinese. So, but because I have the requisite background in writing fiction, and because I have English on my side, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be able to do that. I'm pretty sure that after enough beating my head against the wall and applying for jobs constantly and constantly making content, I will eventually land a job, which will be, in effect, the completion of my Wanderjahre, although it will not be the completion of the channel, because we're going to get on to the next thing that I'm going to find interesting about this channel in just a moment. But that is the big picture scope. That is the way that I am looking at my involvement with Wanderjahre. That is the way that I'm looking at the structure of the content. That is the way all of this is in the ultimate goal of getting better at fiction, getting better at game fiction, understanding game fiction better, and hopefully landing a job writing game fiction. Does that make sense? I will take your silence as yes. Okay, so let's answer these questions real quick. Found a way to play the game online? Great. That's good news. We'll talk about it after the stream. Dad of War. Okay, God of War. Okay. Dad of War is a prime example. I went in for Kratos, fucking shit up, and stayed for the fucking gallons of tears I cried during that story. Yeah, I know. It's insane. That game is, seriously, I think God of War might be one of the most accomplished games ever made. In terms of narrative, in terms of gameplay, in terms of just like the complete package of a thing, of a medium or of an artifact, like a fictional artifact, it is so complete. Like the gameplay is great, the effects, everything that they did, the sound, the voice acting, the music, the vision, like all of it, and the story, and the writing, like specifically the prose, like the dialogue is written well. Everything about it is such an accomplished narrative, such an accomplished narrative artifact, right? And there's more. There's tons more. Like Mass Effect. Even though I don't think you could pay me. Okay, I would play Mass Effect 3 again, or I'd play through all 3 Mass Effect games again for $5,000. But if you were paying, well, I'd do it for $1,000. But for $500, I don't think I would do. I don't think I would play all 3 Mass Effect games again. But those games that stick out in my mind as just like incredibly accomplished narratives, even though when I look back at them now, I'm not so that big of a fan of their structure, right? And I'm not that big. I mean, their narrative structure is fine. I think it's just their gameplay structure that I'm not a big fan of. But yeah, I don't know. I think that there's a great thing going on with games right now where it's great and it's kind of shitty. So the gaming community and gaming fans at large are the most spoiled, annoying, entitled people in the world, or at least in the modern world, because they complain about everything. Nothing's good enough except for that one indie game they really like. And the games can have no flaws, but if they have no flaws, then they're too polished, and you can't win in game development. Like, it feels like everybody hates every game all the time, right? However, there is a kind of a flip side to this. The amount of demand that these people have for the medium and for the people who want to make the medium is absolutely unparalleled. It is unparalleled. Like, you don't see anyone up in arms about, I don't know, Warner Brothers or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like Warner Brothers, they charge $25 for their movies in the theater, and you have to buy popcorn. You know, like nobody does that. Everybody's just like, yeah, I mean, if you don't want to watch, you know, the new Warner Brothers movie, don't go watch it. You know what I mean? Or like Volkswagen. Nobody's like, I can't. Well, Volkswagen might not be the best example because of their emissions thing. Whatever. I don't really know. Ford. Nobody's like, Ford, I can't believe it. When you buy one of their vehicles, you have to get insurance. Yeah, it's like nobody does any of that shit in anything else. Any fiction medium. Nobody's like, how dare this guy only write 300 pages instead of 500 pages in his book? I'm going to unsubscribe and leave a negative review on Steam. It's odd. It's odd. However, the demand that these people make of the developers is astoundingly good for the medium, in that I can't believe how hard this medium is working to get taken seriously. How hard the creators that work in this field, how hard they're working to make this medium its own narrative form, right? They're doing so much more than writers are doing. Writers are like, Yeah, whatever. I know what I got to do. Narrative structure. Poop it out. Send it to the publisher. You know what I mean? Like, or not. Just make it about a girl with a bow and arrow and send it to the publisher. You know, like so. Writers aren't doing it. They're not doing the shit that games and game writers and game developers are doing. I can't believe how hard they're working. I can't believe how varied everything is. You know what I mean? Everything is so unbelievably different. It's like I want to play a game where I don't know, I'm flying around in space, but I also have like a mech suit and I can go down to a planet and but I want it to be a farming simulator. It's like there is a game. There's a game for it. And it's made by a team of 3 Polish guys and it's beautiful. You know, like it's crazy. It's honestly insane to me that there's that much and there's so much competition. There's so much competition in the game industry. The games are just getting better and better and better and better and better and better. And the creators are getting better and better. And the visuals are getting better and better and easier to make. And music is easier, better, this and easier and cheaper, better. It's just fucking crazy. It's like, but novels have been the same since like the 1800s. You know what I mean? Like ultimately the form has been the same. It's a thing with pages and then you flip it open and you read it. You know what I mean? Like it's a linear thing. I mean, I guess you have like choose your own adventures where you turn the book upside down and fucking read it backwards and shit. But like on the whole, those are mostly considered to be gimmicky, right? Because I think the novel as a form has completely solidified. It is like it's calcified. Like it's become like this petrified object where any amount of change to it looks gimmicky. And I wonder what some of that is going to be for video games, right? Like I thought, for example, I thought that first-person shooters were completely set in stone. I thought it was like, this is how they're going to be forever. And then I saw that one game. I mean, it didn't do super well, but that one game, Disintegration, I think was what it was called. It was like a first-person shooter, real-time strategy hybrid that I was like, whoa, you can do that too? And it didn't feel super gimmicky to me, although I guess the market kind of dictated that it was gimmicky. So I don't know. Maybe my point is actually right, that there is somewhat of a. I don't know. I think it just depends. I think it just depends on the right creator, like Lucas Pope, for example. Lucas Pope is, I think, one of my favorite creators. We'll probably play both of his games on this stream because I think this dude's just brilliant in my mind. Brilliant. He's a brilliant man. Or person. Maybe he goes by something else. I'm not sure. He's a brilliant person. And I think he thinks about ludological narratives so much deeper than I am that I would like to study his games as though I were studying, I don't know, the Scarlet Letter. I've read that book 4 times in school. 4 required times I read that fucking book. I hated all 4 of them. I hate that book. I hate the Scarlet Letter. And when he has to reconcile with his past, tears. The ending, I was not okay for weeks. Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially knowing the history of Kratos, right? Like, Kratos is a deep-ass character. Even though he comes from this ridiculously silly, like, over-the-top action background where he, like, bangs goddesses and shit. But like to see him become this character, I think it's just such a what's the word for this? It's like canary in the coal mine, but the positive version of it. I can't remember the phrase, but it's like the canary in the coal mine where it marks such a significant shift in tone in games that I don't think a huge portion of the community is quite ready for. And I don't think there's going to be a lot. I think there's going to be some pushback, but I also think that there's just no way that the game industry goes back from where it's going right now, right? Like there's kind of no way to revert it after like Last of Us and Last of Us 2 and the game that I literally just said, God of War, games like those. These titles are getting they're getting much more, not literary, because I don't really like that word, but it seems like they're trying to take themselves more seriously, right? Now there's going to be some significant growing pains with that, because I think for about, I don't know, 2,000 years, human beings have tried, well, I don't know, how long has a novel been around? Since 1800, 1850? The novel has been trying to take itself seriously as a narrative art form for hundreds of years, right? So it's going to take a while. It's going to take a long time. Luckily, games have novels to draw on, right? But it's the same thing that everybody said about film. Film was like, it was all nonsensical silliness, right? Like, it was like a guy running away from a train, and then there was it was just slapstick and an experimentation, right? Kind of like what people are doing with VR right now, where it's like, oh my God, you can stand on the edge of the Titanic. Isn't this a game? And you're like, no, it's not a game. But it was the same shit with film. It was the same thing back with film, and it was the same thing with novels. Everybody shat all over novels in their early construction because they were considered to be for silly women. That's literally what novels were considered. They were like, oh, those dumb long stories. Oh my God, those stupid ass long stories you have to sit and read. Oh, it sounds like you don't have a job. Like, that's why people read them. Because it was like, or that's how they were poo-pooed. They were shat on. They were considered to be stupid. That only like women without jobs could have enough time to read a novel, right? So it's telling that most people remember Charlie Chaplin as a comedian, but don't remember his speech from The Dictator. No one likes it at first, and then boom, yeah, right. And that's also kind of another one of those moments that I'm talking about, like a canary in the coal mine that's being used incorrectly, of a marked shift in tone. Right, the Charlie Chaplin speech in The Dictator is an excellent example of that exact thing, because as the mediums start to try and take themselves more seriously, the narratives start taking themselves more seriously, and the more divisive these narratives become, right? On a deeper level, because I think that the average population of gamers is rising in general, because there was a huge swell of gamers picked up when you and I were kids, for example, Jake, and now we're all approaching like an elder state, right? Meanwhile, like, the younger kids are playing younger kid games. They're playing Fortnite, and they're playing, like, it's a maturing medium. That's what's happening. The medium is maturing. It's growing from its infancy in the same way that a human being grows up and starts taking things differently, or starts taking different things seriously, right? Starts considering things more seriously. And there's a market for it, clearly, because these games keep getting made, right? And the God of War protagonist is now an old fucking guy. You know what I mean? Like, imagine if they opened with that. Like, that was the first God of War game in whatever year God of War came out. It's like, you play as an old fucking guy who has a son, and you need to get to the top of the thing, and you throw an axe, and people would be like, you throw an axe? Okay, I might do that. But what is this garbage about him being an old fucking guy? It's just, I don't think it would have worked then. I think the only game that, I mean, because you also saw it with Max Payne. Max Payne starts off like fucking, what's his name? The guy who plays Shaggy. He starts off as like that guy, and then Matt Dillon, no. Matthew Lillard, no. I can't remember his name. The guy who plays Shaggy, in the live action. Dude, we used to play NWO wrestling, and I am craving something that challenges my ability to interpret a story, and not the ability to hit a 3-frame link in a fucking story mode. Yeah. Yep. Well, the wrestling games actually had cool ass stories. I remember those. Multiplayer side, I don't give a fuck how it plays. Just tell me a good fucking story. Exactly. Right. Exactly. So yeah. yeah, I just think that there's a market for it. I think that the market is huge, and I think that this is kind of where a significant portion of game development resources and time is going to go. And I also very, very much think that now that games have become significantly easier to make, significantly, like italicized, bold, underline, made on its own, put in its own paragraph, significantly easier to make. I think that there's going to be an explosion of single developer games. Single developer games that are going to be like the explosion of the short story in the early 1920s. Because in the early 1900s, but particularly the 20s, after the war had ended and people were coming back, and there was so many fucking short story writers. There was so many fucking short story writers. And you could make your entire living off of it by just writing short stories. That's all you did. You woke up and you're like, I had a thought. I'm going to write it down in a fiction. And then you send it to Harper's Ferry and you got, rent money. Like, that was a thing that you could do. And I think that there's going to be a similar explosion, probably not going to pay the same, but there's going to be a similar explosion of single developer short narrative games, right? If there isn't already, there's already a ton of them, but like, I think that the quality is going to jump. And I want to be a part of that. So kind of my main charge, as not me, but as Wanderjahre Games, is I want to help improve narrative fiction in games. And we're going to do that in a variety of methods. So the variety of methods include playing games, which I find to have a great deal of, or I respect greatly, like Return of the Obra Dinn, or Papers, Please, or any other significant narrative game available that doesn't require 600 years of reading. So like Baldur's Gate, for example, like the original Baldur's Gates. I love those games. They're great. I'm not going to do that much reading. I'm not going to do that much clunky UI, old fucking, like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to click all this. I can't believe how many times I have to click to play this game. Please stop making me click. Please, please, please. I'm not going to play those old ass games. I might play like 20 minutes of one, but I'm not going to like, okay, here's our let's play of Baldur's Gate, of Icewind Dale. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to do it. I refuse. But I will play sections of those games, or I will play any other significantly meaningful narrative game coming out right now, or not coming out right now, but which have come out, right? I can play some of Planescape Torment. I'm not going to play the whole game because it would be boring. And you should play it for yourself anyway. But play the whole game, like I said, if I play a section of it, that's a one thing that we can learn together about the structure of something. Like I could play a scene from that game. I could describe what a scene in a game is, or at least as Chris Avellone wrote it in Planescape. So I'm going to be playing games made by big teams. I'm going to be playing games made by small teams or single developers, which I will find either via Steam or Itch, not Twitch. So this will probably include just kind of scouring Itch and looking for interesting games. Like one I know I'm going to play is that Junji Ito inspired super short narrative fiction piece. I already played it. It's really cool. It's a great little horror story. It's awesome. Like, it's exactly the type of game that I want to make if I just could do it. If I were a better animator. But that game, I'm pretty sure, took a team of animators. It's a fucking incredible game. Celeste, yes, I will definitely try to play Celeste. I've heard that the story is great. I've heard that the game is fucking hard, so I will do my best. I might. This is another thing. That I thought about. So, I'm not particularly adept, nor do I have the time to play, because my streams are going to be 1 hour. I might do another stream during the week, but it will never be more than an hour, even though I haven't gone over an hour yet. They will be around roundabouts an hour. I'm not going to be doing 8-hour streams. I'm not going to be doing 4-hour streams. I'm not going to do 3-hour streams. I might do a 2-hour stream if somebody's out of town and they got nothing to do today and fuck it, then I'll probably do that shit. But on the whole, my streams will be 1 hour long because I'm not really. It would be great if I could make money off of Twitch, but I'm not really intending to do it. What I'm really intending to do is make a whole bunch of content, kind of like a class almost, like a class that you can go to on YouTube, or you can come visit and watch during the Twitch, and then you can come and hang out in the Discord. There's going to be links to all that shit eventually as soon as I fucking figure out how to do it. And the and you know, follow me on itch, because there's going to be a Wanderjahre itch. Actually, there already is one. What should I call it? I think rather than saying Wanderjahre Games, I think I'm going to just say WJG. Fuck, that's going to be hard to say. WJG. Wanderjahre. That's how you'd say it in German. WJG. WJ. Fuck, that's going to be hard to say. I didn't think about that. Wanderjahre. I actually kind of like Wanderjahre. But you'll be able to... Oh, yeah, I remember my thought. Okay, so I'm not particularly adept at figuring games out quickly, nor do I have the time to do something like play all of Dark Souls on on my stream, because it'll take me literally 3 years. So what I might end up doing is credit the holy shit out of them. But what I might end up doing, because I think, for example, From Software is one of the most important developers in existence right now. I think by far they're doing more to lead the charge of games taking themselves as seriously as fucking possible, telling great narratives using as little text as they possibly can manage, right? Like there's no cutscenes. I mean, no, that's not true. There are cutscenes. They're like 15 seconds long though. There's very little dialogue in terms of like dialogue trees. The game just feels like you're like the most immersive horror story you've ever read. But you also feel like a badass. Like, it's amazing. Those games are amazing. From Software is amazing. So I suck at them. So what I'm probably going to do is, like, I don't know, go to Fightin' Cowboy on YouTube and watch him play it on mute or something. Or like find a no commentary thing, and we'll watch portions of the game so that I can comment on their narrative, on the narrative tools that are being used in this particular toolbox. Does that make sense? So I'm not always going to play a game, for example. Sometimes we're just going to watch them because this is an educational stream. This is not necessarily a gaming stream. And we're also going to do some other stuff. So, like, for example, I think that, like, one of my favorite fighting games, Guilty Gear or Street Fighter, I think that those games do an absolutely amazing job of interpreting character traits as tools for the game, right? So, like, I think it's super duper duper interesting that a charge character like Guile, for example, where you hold back, is the move designed for a very defensive character. That's super, super, super interesting to me as a term of narrative meaning, right? Like, Guile as a character, ludically and design-wise, meshes very well. And I think that's awesome. I think that's really fucking cool, and we're going to talk about that. Let's see. I know a guy who beat it one time. So do I think. Maybe. In reference to Celeste. From Software has told the best stories in the most miserable way possible. They're amazing. Like, every time I play any of those games, I'm just getting fucking whacked. I'm getting whacked. I'm getting murked. I am getting washed, slaughtered, and embarrassed. And I am just marveling at their fucking design. Their enemy design, their level design, their fucking environment design, their armor design, their sound design, their weapon design, their everything. Everything. Oh, me. It was me. I beat it. Oh, sick. Well, I didn't. Did you record it? Did you record you beating it so that I can use it in a Celeste something or other? Oh, that's not a dig at From at all. I'll explain in not. Oh no, I knew it wasn't a dig. I knew you weren't digging. I knew you weren't taking a dig. It's just that's just something that yeah, because I get what you mean. Like they are miserable. Like the games are miserable. They're and not only that, but they embody misery. I mean, like the whole fucking world is miserable, which is how I interpreted what you were saying. Is that it's just depression. It's it's so sad. You're the only one who can do it. You and the lady that's standing next to the fire, or the doll that's hanging out next to the gravestone. God, I love Bloodborne. That game is just captured. It has enraptured my attention. I think about it all the time. I don't even play it that much. I like every once in a while I get an idea and I launch the game, and I'm like, I just want to see this world. like I want to write something, and I'm like, hang on. I gotta go in and look at these wolves. And I go in and I look at the wolves. I'm like, God, those things are so fucking scary. I just can't even imagine how somebody could come up with that goddamn thing to be so fucking scary. Not only the feeling, but like all the story text is hidden. By just playing the game, you get a quarter of that story, but it somehow still feels complete. Yeah, I mean, this is something I actually wanted to talk about with Miyazaki. I mean, I don't even know how many streams I'm going to have dedicated to Miyazaki, because I think that dude is for real, a very meaningful person in the art form of video games. I mean, I guess that's kind of like wow, hot take, Dylan, but like I don't even think it's quite understood how important this motherfucker is in terms of like from a fiction guy, you know what I mean? Like a guy who's never been particularly good at games. It took me literally 3.5 years to get to silver in Street Fighter V. To get to silver, there's only 2 ranks before that, rookie and bronze. So there's gonna be a whole lot of shit dedicated to Miyazaki, because as a guy who has not finished one Souls game but knows a lot about them and admires them deeply, I just think that he's an incredible storyteller. And what you were saying, the text is hidden. By just playing the game, you get a quarter of the story, but it somehow still feels complete. It actually comes directly from Miyazaki's background, where Miyazaki, there's a great documentary about, or one of many documentaries about Miyazaki, where he, when he was a kid, he read a lot of high fantasy. He read a lot of English high fantasy. Or I guess it might have been translated, but he read a lot of books by English writers that were high fantasy. And I guess he grew up poor or something. I mean, of course, every like great dude does or whatever, but like, or great artist guy. But he went to the library a lot and he found these books and he thought they were fucking dope. And so he would read them and he understood like about a quarter of the story, because the words were way too much for his childhood, right? Like there's no way he could understand it. So, but he actually grew to like that. That was something that he genuinely enjoyed about it, was that he liked to read through it and kind of not really know what was going on, but he could piece together in his mind, like, okay, so there's like a king and like he's dead now, I guess. And like his daughter is now like the general. Like that was something that he enjoyed. He enjoyed piecing together the narrative in his mind based on incomplete information coming from his own, thing, right? So how does Miyazaki interpret this? How the fuck does he interpret this? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make games, but I'm going to hide the story in stuff that I know players won't read. That's how I'm going to simulate my childhood. It's like, God damn it, Miyazaki. You fucking unbelievably brilliant bastard. So do you have a structured way you're going to break these stories down, or just hit each point as you feel it come up? Good question. I think what it's going to be is I'm going to focus particularly on certain things. So like, for example, with, it's so funny. We're definitely not playing a game today because I got to stop streaming soon. Because I got to practice Guilty Gear. So for example, if I really, really, really want to talk about, there's going to be no grand structure, for example. Maybe I will do that in the future, but for now, while I'm getting my sea legs, there's no way I'm going to do this, because I still got other stuff I got to get set up. So I'm not going to be like, okay, chapter 1, scene writing. Like here's what a scene is in a game. Okay, now chapter 2 we're going to do objective correlative, and then chapter 3 we're going to do assonance and dissonance of language. Like it's not going to be like, it's not going to be like that. It's going to be kind of like, well, fuck, I really want to talk about objective correlatives today, right? I found an objective correlative in a game I thought was fucking cool, so I'm going to talk about it in the stream, right? So that it's going to be something like that, and there will be multiple versions of that, because I have explained objective correlatives to many people many times, and they still get it wrong. I still get objective correlatives wrong. We'll talk about it later, don't worry. But we're going to talk about objective correlatives, one of the most powerful narrative techniques you could use ever. I mean, it's like that one in scene writing. So if I get a wild hair, I'm going to be like, okay, today we're going to talk about the Great Sword in Monster Hunter World, right? Or the Great Sword in Monster Hunter, as an objective correlative, right? What does the Great Sword say about you? Let's see, shit. You could do hours on just the bosses in the Soulsborne game. Hours. I'm so excited to watch it all. Yeah, exactly. Like boss design. Because the thing that I think is amazing, once again, is that in its infant stage, video games nailed it. They nailed narrative structure. In their infant stage, they nailed it. Every single level is a tightly contained, perfect thing, right? It has a beginning. You go into the conflict, right? It's written in scene structure. They didn't even know they were fucking doing it because they were babies. They were babies at the time. They were babies. Games are now getting into college, right? Games as a medium is now getting into college. So now they're trying to break structure, and they're trying to do all this bullshit, and that's why we have Last of Us 2, and it's structured so poorly, right? Like they're trying to do all the college kid stuff. But when games were young, they intuited narrative perfectly. That's why those games are all still around, and why if somebody made Contra 4, people buy it immediately. Because Doom and all of those games, they were structured perfectly. They had like you went through it, the conflict was introduced, you start getting hints of what the boss is going to be. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, right? And then you get to the end, and while many people think that the boss is the culmination of the conflict, the Miyazaki once again interpreted this perfectly, and he said that no, the boss isn't the culmination of the conflict. The boss is the payoff for the scene, right? It's the payoff. It's the leading into the next scene. It's the setup is learning the area, learning where the enemies are, learning all this stuff about how the new area works, how the new enemies work, how this, you're, oh my god, I'm lost, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm so scared, oh, I have so many souls, what am I going to do if I die, how will I get back here, oh my god, I'm lost. And then you get to the end and you're like, oh my god, I know where the fucking end of this level is. I know where the end of this level is, and now I just got to beat this boss. And then you go back and you beat it, or you get fucking murked over and over and over again, and then you finally kill it, and you've just completed a chapter of the Miyazaki story, of the Miyazaki novel. Let's see. What's happening in this game? An Italian plumber is fighting a demon turtle's army to save a lady. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because every level introduces its new conflict, right? And all narrative is just conflict resolution. It's just, here's the new situation that the character is in. Here's the conflict. And how is it going to be resolved? Now, there is some stuff that could be a little bit better, of course, in terms of actual narrative. Like, in terms of like bit by bit narrative, right? Like word by word narrative. If you wanted to really have these levels tell a perfect story, you would have like little intros, outros of things which kind of set up the shift in tone, the shift in narrative, like where the narrative is going to go from there, etc. So like, I guess it's a little overstating it to say that they perfectly nailed it, because I actually think that From Software is probably the first game developer to perfectly nail it, because they not only do it in their story, but they also give the player that sense just through their mechanics, and through their environment design and world design and just everything. Oh god damn it, I forgot to talk about the other thing. This is like the second pillar. I got lost talking about games. That's how passionate I am about game narrative. The second pillar, so there's two pillars, right? game narrative, playing games, game narrative. Pillar 2, game jams. So you can go to the Wanderjahre Games, Wanderjahre. You can go to the Wanderjahre Discord. And there's no link on Twitch right now because I don't know how to do it. But there will be. And you can also go to the Wanderjahre itch. That's very easy. It's spelled in the exact same way as the Twitch. You can just type in Wanderjahre. There is a Discord link on that thing. There will also be a Discord link underneath the YouTube video if you're watching this on YouTube. So you just click the Discord link and then you will be swooped. You'll be whisked away and brought to our Discord where you will receive all the updates on game jams. Because what I'm hoping to do, it might be a little bit ambitious. For now, we're going to be doing monthly game jams. Monthly game jams where people can come in, they show their stuff. It's a narrative game jam every single month. Every single month, it's a narrative-focused game jam. You have to make games that tell stories. Full stop. You can throw in whatever other shit you want, but it has to tell a story. And the themes are going to be narrative themes. They're not going to be game mechanic themes. Although I will have some game mechanic themes as well, but those will be in the restriction category. The themes will not be like 4 suns. They'll be like scene structure, write in scene structure. This game has to be 1 scene, or it has to be 2 scenes or something. So that's going to be a thing. This is going to be the educational portion. This is what is considered in the MFA the workshop. So in the MFA program, for example, there's a thing called the writer's workshop, where you go home and you write a short story or whatever, or a scene or whatever, or a section of your novel, and then you go to class that week, and the class starts at like fucking 8 and it goes until like 2 a.m, and you sit there with all the other writers, and then they've all read your story, you've read all of their stories, and then you proceed to beat the shit out of each other. Now, we're not going to be like that. Because I don't actually think it's that valuable to have somebody just bash you over the head with like random fucking, well, I didn't like this character because she drives a Buick. It's like, okay, fucking awesome. That's not what we're going to be doing. I very, 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 very intentionally am steering away from that stupid side of the MFA because I fucking hated the MFAs who did that. I hated those writers so much. So there's going to be a lot more support. However, I will be commenting, and what I'm hoping is that the community will grow with me in this, is that we will begin commenting on the structure of fiction and how it relates to games, and how you can use fiction to make better narrative games, and how you can use it to make just better games in general. So that's the other pillar, monthly game jams. You make a game, or you bring a game you've been working on, whatever, kind of like the novel versus the short story versus the scene, right? You bring the game. I play the games on the Twitch. Depending on how many submissions we get, I'm going to play at least 10 of the submissions. They'll be voted on top 10 games I play on Twitch, just like at Neophyte, except for it's just me, not the other people. So we're going to be analyzing the shit out of these games. And I'm going to be asking people, hopefully in chat, if people start coming to the chat, I'm going to be asking them for what they think could improve the narrative, right? The writer can defend themselves. The game maker can defend themselves in this workshop, right? They can defend themselves in chat. It's going to be a little bit tough because, like, okay, so for example, in the MFA workshop, in the MFA fiction workshop, you can't defend yourself. The writer must remain silent. They must. And I think it's kind of dumb because, like, sometimes people can do some stupid shit where it's like, yeah, like there's all these writers in the room. They're like, I just can't believe the werewolf. I just can't believe that werewolf. Like, where did the werewolf even come from? The werewolf it came out of nowhere. I thought it was living in San Antonio, and then boom, suddenly it was in Calabasas. It's like, and then you get to the end of it, and everybody's like, yeah, the werewolf. I don't know how it got to Calabasas. And then at the end of the story, they're like, the writer's like, what werewolf? Like, there was no werewolf in that story. There was a dog. There was a dog in it. His name was Wolf, but it's just a dog. And then you've spent an entire hour talking about somebody's short story completely incorrectly because the writer couldn't fucking defend themselves, right? So the rider will be able to defend themselves. But that's how the jam is going to work, is the top 10. And maybe we can play more, who knows? I mean, I only ever really got 11 submissions anyway, so back on Neophyte, so I'm going to be hopefully getting more, but what was I going to say? Oh, but if we go like 12, you know, I'm just like, sorry, you last two who didn't win, you also don't get comments. Like, I'm not going to do that. So we'll just have to figure that out as we get to it. Because I want to make game narratives better, and I want to make the people who are making game narratives better. That's my thing. So I'm going to be, I mean, it's not my thing. It's just like a thing I like to do. So that's going to be the itch side. So those are the two pillars. Those are the two pillars of Wanderjahre. This is Wanda and this is Yaha. Wanderjahre. Miyazaki and itch. Right? So, yeah. So that's going to be effectively what this stream is. Sorry we didn't play Return of the Obra Dinn. I probably could have made my face bigger because it's just me talking over a beautiful... I mean, at least it's a pretty background. God, this game is so good. Seriously, it's awesome. We will play it next week, next Thursday. But for now, I'm already over time. So, yeah, I got to go do my job, unfortunately. And yeah, so that's what we're going to be doing. Itch Miyazaki. I should just change the name to that. This is Itch Miyazaki Games, where we scratch Miyazaki's back and ask him to tell us his secrets. Even though I haven't beat one From game and maybe never will, because I get too scared. Yeah. Oh, and I think it would be kind of fun to make I would really like to do this, Jake. I don't know if you're interested in something like this, but I would really, really, really like to do something like make a story with a magic deck. If that makes sense. So like, you just make the deck and then send me the deck list. It has to be playable in Magic Arena. Okay. In some capacity. It has to be playable in Magic Arena because I like that game, even though I hate that game. But it has to be played in Magic Arena. If you write a story using Magic cards, I will play that deck online and I will try and interpret the narrative. Okay. Does that make sense? That's something I think would be sick. He got me. He said, oh, dude, I got you. So that could be cool. Stuff like that, writing narratives in non-traditional means, I think would be really fun. But that's all other stuff. We'll definitely do the Magic one, but there's other things. But yeah, so for now, gameplay, game jams. That's what we're going to be doing. And analyzing narrative, completely focused on narrative, nothing else. We can talk about game mechanics, but it's always going to be in service of the narrative. Right. And with that, we will say goodbye for Neophyte Studios. Fucking hell, I said Neophyte Studios. This is Wanderjahre Games. God damn it. This is Wandering Years. This is Journeyman. This isn't Newcomer. This isn't Apprentice. This is Journeyman. I can't believe I fucking said that. That's so funny. Don't goddamn tell Pinkney I said that. Okay? Do not tell Pinkney. Do not tell Pinkney that I said that. But yeah. So, cool, y'all. That was me. Oh, yeah. And try to find the links as best you can. Try to find the links to the Discord and shit as best you can. Okay? Bye. Let's end it. Oh, shit. Stop streaming.